Hello guys, if you look at the calendar, you may notice that the gyms are getting a little packed. Well, everybody seems to be motivated to change. Since it's becoming January and the new year is starting, people realize that they need to reflect on their life and maybe there's some things that we could improve. If you're like me, you set a lot of things that you want to do and change. Those rarely happen, but I am going to give you a few tips on how your New Year's resolutions can actually succeed. I feel like during this time of year, you see two types of videos on the internet. You see people saying, I'm going to do this and this and this and this and this, and it doesn't usually happen. The other video you get swarmed by is, New Year's resolutions are just plainly dumb and not going to work. I think that there's a healthy middle. I'm going to show you that you can change and improve your life in some way. Is it going to be easy? No. However, I have some unique tips that most people are not going to share. Stay tuned to find out. These are tips that I learned in my psychology and counseling classes and are evidence-based and I think are pretty easy to adapt. So let's get right in. First thing I want to warn you about is being overly ambitious. When we look into what we need to change, we may start feeling a little down on ourselves when we realize, man, maybe I'm not as social as I need to be. I really wish I had more money. Take a breath. Reflect. What can you do? None of these are going to be solved in one day. Now, the next trap that I see is people are so hard on themselves if they miss a single day. I don't think there's rarely any habits that we don't miss at least one day on. Recognize that, life happens. Sometimes you aren't feeling motivated. Sometimes you just simply forgot. That doesn't make you a bad person, and that doesn't mean that all the work you've put in has been for nothing. A simple tip I have is I try to keep a habit by not missing more than 2 days. That way I allow myself to take a break if I need to, or if something's happening I don't feel tied down. Now, this does mean there are some weeks where I only do my habit like 3 times a week. Don't discredit that. It is very powerful. And sometimes there's days where I'm like, man, I just don't want to go to the gym. And then I change, and I'm like, I should probably go to the gym. It just happens, okay? I feel like our culture is very stressed on having these productivity and high-achieving habits. Look, these aren't for everyone. Find what works for you and find what makes you happy. There is one thing that I see so many people who grew up on the internet fail at, and it holds them back a lot. A lot of people do what I like to call productive procrastination. This is when, instead of actually doing the task, you learn about how to do it effectively. A very easy example of this is, let's say I want to work out. Well, okay, what kind of running shoes do I need? Oh, maybe I need something with more support. Am I really flat-footed, or do I have high arches? Do I need a wide or narrow sole? Okay, I got that taken care of. Oh, I'm probably going to need running clothes now. I need like an actual routine. Well, what do these people say? Let me research all the exercise scientists. And it gets to a point where they do probably 200 hours of research and 0 hours of actually working out. Now, the reason why this is so effective is it feels like you're being productive. But in the grand scheme of things, you've reaped no benefits from working out. You may know how to work out more effectively and avoid some beginner traps. However, if you would have just worked out, you would have already made some of the benefits, started forming the habit early on, and you probably would have at least reached a plateau or some point where you realize, maybe there's a way I could do this better. It's not always about being the most efficient. Sometimes you just do it. Sometimes working smarter, not harder, is just doing the work at the start, and then realizing, oh, I may need to change something. With that said, I'm going to teach you how to set this plan of intentionality a little more effectively. So in the grand scheme of things, my counseling professor divided any goal change into some categories. Now, the 7 I have here, there may be more, is physical, emotional, spiritual, intellectual, social, occupational, and environmental. I would start off by picking 1 or 2 of the domains and focusing on those. Do not come up with one for each domain. You may feel like all these places I need to work on, and to some extent, that's true for everyone. However, identify 2 you have some motivation. Now, that motivation shouldn't just be, oh, I'm really bad at this. I hate myself because of this. That's going to discredit you a lot. You're going to fall into this trap of, I know I need to work on this. This is really holding me back. I'm so terrible. Notice that. Don't judge yourself over it. With these, I want you to make a chart. So first, write down the 2 domains that you want to tackle. So for me, I really want to work on occupational and intellectual. So with occupational, I want to be able to do YouTube more consistently and put out content that I'm actually proud of and be able to get through the funk of not liking editing, feeling like I'm taking too much time, worrying about if my content's good enough. For intellectual, this is 2 things. I want to focus on, obviously, psychology, and the other thing I want to work on is my Japanese learning, which I feel I've supremely slacked off on. First things first, write down some things that you already do that pertain to this. So obviously, I record videos, I script things, I do some live streams, I make some posts. Next, we're going to get into the other main thing. This is probably one of the single most vital parts of this video. There's a thing called SMART goals, and this is going to make your motivation and intention so much easier to understand what you need to do every day and way more concrete. If I say, oh, I want to learn Japanese, what does that mean? What do I do that day? What am I even willing to get out of it? How much time should I put in? SMART goals is an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and time-based. So for each domain, we're going to do this. First, be specific. What do I mean when I say I want to learn Japanese? What I want to do is I want to be able to understand and translate media. For me personally, I don't really care as much for conversations, so I'm not going to focus on that. What do I need for that? Okay, I need to understand more grammar, and I probably need a lot of vocab. So those are the things I'm going to focus on. Measurable. So with that, obviously measurable could be learning a new vocab word, learning up to 5, maybe learning a new grammar concept once a week. For actionable, this means that there is a time and a place I can sit down, do this, and I can do it today. There needs to be some action that I can take to achieve this goal. So for me, this would be watching or immersing in media and writing down vocab words and making flashcards over some of the words that I didn't know. Relevant. So obviously, if I want to understand Japanese media, watching Japanese media and studying based off that is very relevant. And finally, time-based. This one is very hard. And this is what really messes people up. Set a time in the day when you are going to do this. This has to be a specific time. Say at 6 p.m. I'm going to watch an episode of anime. Honestly, that may be too much. Maybe I only watch half an episode. Set something you think is light and then half that. Make it so easy that even when you feel so just drained and tired, you can still do this, or at least get to the point where you feel like you're taking actionable steps and keeping that habit building. The next thing is, based off of that time and those goals, Write down milestones. Let's say I want to learn 3 new words a day. That's around 90 words a month. Write down where you're going to be or where you want to be after a month, and where you want to be after 3 months, where you want to be after 6 months, and where you want to be by the end of the year. These are going to be things you're going to check up on at least once a week, preferably every day, and you're going to check off as you get to those points. This is going to make you feel like you're actually doing things. I would also suggest writing a backup for the action. So if there's a day where let's say I do want to learn only 3 vocab words a day, I'm going to set up something where if that day I do not want to do it, I will be satisfied with just doing it 1 word that day. That way I'm still learning. I'm still doing the habit. It's just not as daunting. Set the goal to be so specific, there is no room for any ambiguity. These are more just general tips that I just want to throw in here. First, have an accountability partner or some way to share your progress. Either get a partner to do these things, post about it online. Did I accomplish this today? Yep. Boom. Here's what I did today. Yep. Boom. Next, have some sort of tracker. Find what makes you feel accomplished and motivated. And the biggest thing is cut back, don't stop. I used to do a running sport, and the number one thing that was hammered into my head is you can always slow down, but never walk. Our coach would yell. The kindest old soft-spoken man. But if you were walking, he would yell. You would see people who are like jogging so slowly that they are slower than the person walking, and he would yell at the person walking before the person who is pretend jogging / walking, because at least they're trying to keep that form. And that's what I want to hammer in. Even if it seems so slow, so minuscule, such a drop in the bucket, do that. Don't stop. Literally, doing that small action is going to make you feel more accomplished, and it's just going to keep that ritual. And if you miss a day, don't put yourself down and don't diminish all that you've done. This is another reason why trackers and those goals are very important. There's been a lot of times in my Japanese learning where I'm like, man, I want to quit. I just haven't done enough. I feel like I haven't learned that much. And then I pull up my statistics and I see I've put in this many hours. I've learned this many words. Why stop now? After 1 day. Don't be hard on yourself. Change if you want to. This is never easy. If you fail that action, sometimes you're not a bad person, and you can always get up and keep going. I hope this helped you in any way possible. I'm not going to pretend like I'm a behavioral therapist or that qualified. I very much hope that at least one of these tips stood out to you and was new, and that you're willing to try. Have a good one. Bye.